Welcome into Payoff Pitch. We are Action Network's MLB betting podcast. Game one of the World Series on this Friday, October 25th, 2024. Brendan Glasheen alongside Sean Zerillo and BJ Cunningham. You can find Sean Zerillo's opening pitch right up right now in the Action app, actionnetwork.com, previewing game one of this series. He also does a big constructive breakdown of the series as a whole from yesterday on Thursday. So be sure to check that out before you enter game one to get any futures for this series in. We will have a pod every day there is a game, so we won't be with you tomorrow for game two, but early next week, we hope to be joining you for more content here on Payoff Pitch. So we've got Garrett Cole taking the rubber for the Yankees in Los Angeles, facing Jack Flaherty. Dodgers slight favorites, minus 130 on the money line. Totals at 8.5 as we record on Friday morning. Okay, Sean, side, total, any other direction we want to go? Let's start out here.
Yeah, waiting for the Yankees at plus 111. I made the game line about plus 107, plus 106. So anything, once it crosses that plus 110 threshold, I think you can jump in. There has been resistance at plus 110. Some books, softer books, are hanging plus 110s, but nobody really willing to go higher than that. It did open higher than that, but we also didn't know the pitching matchup at the time. I think the market probably presumed it would be Yamamoto against Garrett Cole. Ended up being Flaherty against Garrett Cole. So shortens the Yankees price up just a little bit, and I think that's why they've come down from plus 120 to about plus 108. So if it goes back up to plus 111 or higher, I would bet the Yankees. Again, projected the Dodgers at about plus 106 for game one. In terms of props that I've bet, Garrett Cole under 15.5 outs, the juice on that has skyrocketed. I feel like everybody gave that out. I would now bet Cole under 4.5 strikeouts at plus money. The non-domestic books, they have that at like minus 105 to the under on Cole 4.5. They have shortened up the price on his over. I think the over domestically is minus 135 for 4.5 for Cole. The offshore is minus 125. So I would say rather than betting Garrett Cole under 15.5 outs at minus 180 or wherever it is compared to the minus 125, I got it. Bet Cole under 4.5 strikeouts at plus money. I may even end up adding that myself. And same respect, Jack Flaherty unders, though I think you're going to find better numbers on Flaherty live. If you have a book, DraftKings lets you bet live player prop unders in progress. They'll adjust Flaherty and Cole's lines as the game's going based on what's happening. You can probably jump in on a live under or live unders on Flaherty as the game's in progress, under on his strikeouts, under on his outs, maybe over on his walks and earned runs if you have it available to you. But the biggest key for me in this series is probably Jack Flaherty's arm and his velocity, because he's going to start game one for the Dodgers, would start game five, presumably, would be available maybe to pitch at a game seven. I don't think we'll necessarily see him. But the biggest issue with Flaherty is the velocity, and it dipped substantially in his last start of the NLCS. He's had now a full week to rest up since that start. And we saw him with added rest earlier in the playoffs. That velocity was up. 10 days of rest in the NLDS. Or I should say, his final two starts of the regular season. It was his lowest velocity level since 2017. A 5, 6-year, 7-year run? 7-year run. So I'm still in like pandemic brain where I think we're in 2022 or 2023. So I subtract 2022 from 2017, right? Flaherty's, his fastball velocity, and his slider velocity, final two starts of the regular season at a 7-year low, lowest mark since 2017. In the playoffs, 10 days of rest, bounced back up to his season-long average. 5 days of rest in game one of the NLCS, slight dip overall for the game, but the first time through the order, he was cooking. Everything was where it should be. 4 strikeouts, 1 walk. Second, third times through the order, I believe he had 1 walk and 2 strikeouts in game one, second and third time through the order. In game 5, he faced the Mets order twice. I think he faced 18 hitters. He might have faced, I believe he faced 18 hitters exactly. He gave up 4 walks and no strikeouts. So the first time he faced the Mets order, 4 strikeouts, 1 walk. The next 4 times he faced their order, 5 walks, 1 strikeout, and the velocity also dipped with it too. I think the more innings Flaherty is throwing, that arm is starting to balk and catch up with him. He had concerning medicals at the trade deadline. I think it's clear in October that his arm is not 100%. If you look at his velocity graphs throughout the season, if you look at his expected FIP graphs throughout the season, his walk graph throughout the season, everything trends worse month by month. He was as best as he could be earlier in the year when the arm is fully healthy. There's been, gradual declines as the year has gone along. So attacking Flaherty in whatever ways I could. Again, the live unders on his props, I think as the game is in progress, after he turns over that Yankees lineup once, then also the Yankees live money line around that same time is where I'll be looking to jump into. And then finally, Freddie Freeman, under 1.5 total bases. I laid minus 200 here. I'd prefer to lay the juice on this prop rather than playing his under 1.5 total hits, runs, and RBI, just because of the lineup in front of him. He could get sac fly opportunities, what have you. There's cheaper ways to go over that 1.5 total hits, runs, and RBI. But under 1.5 total bases for Freeman, he's going to need to get 2 hits to beat you. That ankle is sore. He can't leg out doubles right now. I think he probably needs 2 hits to beat that number. So Freeman under 1.5. Don't go crazy. Don't go beyond like minus 220, minus 225. But yeah, leaning to the Yankees, waiting for plus 111 pregame, targeting them live, targeting Flaherty's unders, Cole's unders, and Freddie Freeman's unders.
Yeah, hard to imagine that Freeman is like close to not even 100%, close to, 70% after even just a couple days off. I'm curious to see how he looks after a little bit of a layoff. And based on your handicap and just your analysis of Flaherty, God, the Dodgers are really just kind of piecing this thing together to try to get to the finish line.
They have some other injury news. Sorry to interrupt you, Brendan, but they still have Alex Vesia, who was injured in I believe the NLDS against the Padres, missed the NLCS. He may come back for the World Series. They've talked about bringing Brusdar Graterol back for the World Series. So we're still waiting on finalized World Series rosters.
Of course,
the other guy I should mention too is Miguel Rojas. Miguel Rojas was the Dodgers' best defender this year by both defensive runs saved and outs above average. When Mookie played the position earlier in the year, he was a negative defender. Tommy Edman is closer to an average defensive shortstop. So Rojas, if he's in there, is a big defensive upgrade for the Dodgers. I doubt we even see him really in this series, considering how Edman's hitting. And Rojas he aggravated an injury that he was already dealing with. So he may just be there as defensive insurance. But yeah, the Dodgers certainly are more banged up at this point of the year and also had to play more playoff games. Their bullpen threw 19 more innings. They've worked harder to get to this point. And people could talk about the Yankees' easy path, whatever. They blew through the Royals and the Guardians. They didn't linger with those teams, and they were able to rest up their bullpen, rest up their starters, and their hitters are mostly healthy. Even Giancarlo Stanton at this time of year, we're not used to him being able to run around the bases, right?
Right. Yeah, Vesia is going to throw a simulated game. He threw a simulated game Wednesday. That's from Eric Steven of SB Nation. Same reporter also mentioned that Dave Roberts said that Rojas is trending in the right direction. Good possibility that he'll be active for this World Series. So something to monitor there. Okay, BJ, we haven't heard from you. What's going on? What do you got for best bet, outlook of game 1?
Yeah, I'm with Sean. I like Flaherty under 4.5 strikeouts in this game. Sean obviously mentioned the dip in velocity. What's interesting is that in that second start against the Mets, he threw one pitch that was over 92 miles per hour.
Yeah.
And the Mets hammered him, had 6 balls that they hit with an exit velocity over 100 miles per hour. But his pitch mix in that final game against the Mets was interesting because he threw more knuckle curves than he did fastballs in that game. And I think it was a clear sign that, like our Sean already mentioned, that when he has this rest and he's able to increase his velocity a little bit, and then when he doesn't have that, it's, okay, I got to go to my knuckle curve and I got to go to my slider and I got to try to anything I can because my fastball is very exposed if I'm only throwing it 90 miles an hour across the plate. He's not somebody that typically throws the ball up in the zone, really, like a lot of pitchers have during the season. He's typically middle and down in the zone where the Yankees hit the ball very, very well. But his strikeout rate is way down in the postseason, and even over the second half of the season. So first half of the season, he was at a 32% strikeout rate. Then he went down to 27% over the second half of the season, dipped very, very low in the month of September and October. So far in the postseason, he only has 8 strikeouts in his 3 starts. That's an 11% strikeout rate. So the Yankees, who throughout most of the season have been good in terms of not striking out, like they were 21st in strikeout rate during the regular season, they're around that same type of percentage here during the postseason. And I think it's going to be interesting how long Flaherty actually lasts in this game because the Dodgers, they obviously don't have much starting pitching, and they're going to have to utilize their bullpen pretty heavily. Does Dave Roberts say game 1, he's in trouble, oh crap, we got to go to our bullpen now? Or
Yeah.
does he give him a longer leash like he has throughout many starts throughout this postseason and say, you know what, we'll just load up our bullpen for game 2 with Yamamoto and we'll have a day off. And then obviously 3 days after that. But the bullpen's taxed. It's been pitching a ton, but the week off obviously helps. So, yeah, I would target Flaherty unders. I like under 4.5 strikeouts given how much his performances have dipped here in the postseason and how he's just not striking batters out really at all. And then one other prop that I liked was Anthony Rizzo to get a hit at -140, hitting 429 during the postseason. He obviously was injured for most of the season, came back in the month of September. And in that month of September, he had over a 400 expected weighted on base average against fastballs and knuckle curves, which are basically the 2 main pitches that Flaherty is throwing right now. So even though he is in the bottom of the order, he's hitting the ball really, really well. So, Flaherty is somebody who's better against lefties than he is against righties. Another guy, Sean, I was looking at whose numbers throughout the regular season against, fastballs, sliders, and knuckle curves were really good. It was Austin Wells, but he just can't hit the ball in this postseason right now. So he would be somebody interesting maybe to target in the prop market. But again, his bat's so cold, and we might see Trevino behind the plate tonight. So, Rizzo to get a hit and Flaherty under 4.5 strikeouts for me.
Yeah, Wells moved down to about 8th in the Yankees order. They've kind of buried him. They moved Jazz up. It's partially why I like Jazz for series RBI leader at 15-1 and series MVP. I think he's a sneaky look hitting behind the meat of the Yankees order. I would avoid, or I'd be hesitant to bet Flaherty under 14.5 outs. I was really skeptical about that because of the Dodgers bullpen issues and fatigue and Dave Roberts potentially not wanting to tax them right out of the gate in the World Series. I think there's a chance, especially, I said Flaherty first time through the order. I think the velocity may be up. So I think he shouldn't probably have a problem getting to 15.5 outs tonight. Maybe the strikeouts dip second time through. But yeah, that's why I target a live under 15.5 if you can get it, as opposed to betting the 14.5 pregame. 15 just such a key number. It feels like, getting that 5th inning, and then turning over the bullpen for the final 4 innings. So the main, argument though against, or for the pitcher unders in this series, not only were these the 2 best offenses in baseball against right-handed pitching, but also these teams see a ton of pitches. They both rank in the top 5 in pitches per plate appearance offensively. They also both had the highest walk to strikeout ratios in the regular season, meaning walks divided by strikeouts, not strikeout minus walk ratio that we talk about for pitchers, but the opposite. And the Yankees basically walk half as much as they strike out, which is unbelievable. The Dodgers were at 0.45. Both teams are doing it even more in the playoffs. They've gone from 0.51 and 0.51 for the Yankees and 0.45 for the Dodgers to 0.64 and 0.62 respectively in the playoffs. If you watch that Dodgers-Mets series, you saw a ton of walks. The Yankees are actually walking even more than the Dodgers have in the postseason. So both teams super patient. I think they can rack up these pitch counts, knock out these starters early consistently throughout the series. And then as we get deeper into the series, as they get more familiarity with one another's bullpens, I think we're going to see more late scoring, more bullpen blowups, and more potential for live overs. So I like the live over today a little bit with Flaherty when he gets to that lineup a second time. If this was a game 5 and the Yankees had seen the Dodgers relievers already and had some familiarity with their pitch types and the looks against them, I'd really like it today. So live over today, but if this were a game 5, would absolutely love it.
Yeah, BetMGM is giving you just looking at walk props, because I know that's something that we dove into quite a bit with Bryce Harper. I'm curious who might be that guy in this series, if there is one. Like Aaron Judge it's at 1.5 over at almost plus 200. Curious who might be the walk machine in this.
Yeah, Muncy was the guy in the NLCS. He wasn't swinging at all against the Mets. I think he had 11 walks in that series after walking once in the NLDS. He's also been prioritized more in the Dodgers lineup with Freeman being injured. He's moved up a little bit. I think they moved him up to 5th against lefties when Freeman sat, and he was hitting. I can't remember where they moved him actually, but he's moved up in the order, and he's seeing fewer pitches to hit because he's batting in front of guys who aren't hitting as well in the postseason, like Will Smith and Freddie Freeman, who's injured. So I think Muncy, I saw him at like minus 140 to walk. It seemed okay. I wasn't in love with it. Ohtani was like minus 240 something, or so. No, it was Soto who was like minus 250 to walk one time in game 1. His walk numbers are absolutely ridiculous. His props are absolutely ridiculous. But Yeah, I think Muncy, just coming off of an LCS where he was so unbelievably patient, in that mindset for game one, maybe continues to walk again. But it's not like Cole's a guy with command issues. I just think in general, Cole under strikeouts or under 15 and a half outs are probably the way to go with how the Dodgers are going to grind him down.
Yeah, in game 6 of the LCS with Mania pitching, they had Muncy hit 5th, and they had Edman hit the cleanup spot. So they bumped Hernandez up to the 3-hole. So
yeah, and that's going to be the difference in the Dodgers order this year. I mean, maybe it will be. We'll see where they hit Edman because he had such an incredible NLCS. But if they go back to the lineups they've been using, Edman is probably going to hit 7th or 8th in the majority of the series as opposed to cleanup. He'll hit cleanup against Rodon, but likely 7th or 8th against righties.
Okay, very good. Yeah, Carlos Rodon will be on the mound in game number 2, which is coming your way on Saturday, and then Yamamoto for the Yankees. So keep an eye out for a game 2 preview over in the app, actionnetwork.com. Sean will have a full breakdown and write-up on opening pitch for game 2.
Rodon's been electric, too, in the playoffs. 1 walk and 22 strikeouts. You know, he had that rough 5th inning against the Royals. His stuff has been unbelievable. I considered him for series. I think there were some series strikeout leader props where he was 3rd on the odds board. If you think this gets to a game 6, I think Rodon, or 6 or 7, I should say. This gets to game 6 or 7. I think Rodon has a decent chance of being the series strikeout leader. I think he might have been 3rd choice behind Cole and Flaherty. So take a look at that as well.
Pitcher to record most strikeout. Yeah, Rodon plus 420. Flaherty and Cole, your favorites.
It's not bad. I think Rodon has been absolutely cooking in the playoffs, and the Dodgers are a little bit worse against lefties than righties, so might be worth a look.
All right. Very good. Our next pod will be Monday when the series shifts to the Bronx for game 3, Dodgers-Yankees. So we'll be joining you. We'll be recording first thing Monday morning, and then we'll get it out and running for game 3 of the World Series. For BJ Cunningham, Sean Zerillo, Brendan Glasheen, thanks for tuning in to Payoff Pitch. We are Action Network's MLB betting podcast. Enjoy game 1. We'll join you for game 3 on Monday.